you, stalking you all day long.
Well, you know I got a miracle with me.
Well, you're working with a miracle. You're from Baltimore. To all my friends in BAL, God bless you all very much. I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, which, you know, my dad would go practice at Elton Hospital in Maryland.
So you're an Eagles fan, probably, growing up in Wilmington.
Big-time Eagles. We call them the Beagles, by the way, because that's what usually happens at the end of the season. However, I'm really optimistic this year. And I went to a couple, you know, they seem to have a remarkable spirit. This team shouldn't be here. But anyway, I was coming anyway because I've got a commercial in the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, really? What are you doing?
So, well, Morgan Freeman was just a great guy. He'd done a commercial with Turkish Airlines last year where you see one Morgan Freeman, then a bunch of them, he's filling all the seats in the plane, then all the places on the planet, like a raindrop falling into the ocean of humanity, he argued, we're all the same.
I remember that. Very impactful.
Right. So Turkish Airlines came to me and said, we want to do something like that, but around the body, around the miracle of who we are. So I said, we'll do it around senses, our 5 senses. And the basic idea is, you know, we all hear, we all see, we all smell, but think about our eyes. We have millions of hues of light that come into our eyes. All we got to do is look up. And we don't. And what I'm trying to get across, and we'll be, you know, let everyone judge. It'll be in the first quarter, I hope. You'll actually see us tell the story all over the world. South Africa, Scandinavia, Turkey, obviously, because that's where Turkish Airlines is where my family is from. But you look and you see how special a planet we're in. But the most miraculous place of all is our bodies. And we don't use it. And these great pro athletes have the ability to use their bodies and examine what really happens and have awareness.
For better and worse.
For better and worse. And today's my 1500th show, by the way.
Wow.
And so Oprah and Gayle King and others are, you know, paying visits. And I just taped it. And the basic message they're all saying, which is what they've always told me, is, you know, we're guests in people's homes. Right? I'm a host, but I'm really a guest in your home. You're letting me come in and visit with you, and you're letting me bring my ideas to you, my guests to you, and we have to make that a good interaction. We have to make that come alive. I've got to go in there and not just bring light, which is the TV set, which is literally light, but also enlighten you and lift your burden, lighten your burden. And I think when we do that for each other, that's what life's about. And in America, especially now, when people get quibbling, and I get to meet a cancer survivor who it's just unimaginable 10 years ago you were sitting next to me, and now you're as beautiful as ever. You have good taste, by the way, in women.
I think so.
But you see this, I mean, cancers across the board, our survival rates are skyrocketing. Some of the childhood cancers we're just knocking out. Leukemia, again, a good example. Things we never had a prayer about, we're making huge inroads in. We're born and are living at a remarkably gifted time. And we forget that.
4 years ago, she was diagnosed. We knew nothing about leukemia. And it's people like you. I mean, when we were kids, there weren't shows like this to educate us about diet, about science, about the body. And I think in the modern era, it's all there for you, whether it's Animal Planet if you love animals, or your show if you love getting healthier, or food channels if you want to cook healthier. I tell you, what you do every day, we learn something, and you're always sort of on in the background for us, and we both work from home now that she survived with our beautiful cat. We do a lot of things for Humane Society as well. It is a pleasure to have you on. And bone marrow transplants, we knew nothing about it 4 years ago, and when you get into the fight, you learn about all of it. We had Rod Carew and Conrad Rule on here. You learn about heart transplants. So I think all of these miracle stories that people like you and Oprah and Ellen shine a spotlight on, it gives hope to people like Jen when she's dying. It gave hope to me as a caregiver that she could survive, because 10 or 15 years ago it was a death sentence.
Hope is a remarkably powerful emotion. You don't want to give false hope, but too often people do the opposite. They smother hope. And when you talk about leukemia, bone marrow transplant, frankly, any oncologic therapy that's out there, the chronic illnesses that afflict Americans, people are quick to write it off as, oh, it's tragic, you're done, you're finished. We're making gargantuan inroads, and especially with something like bone marrow transplant, where the single most important thing is the donor, right? Which we're not even taking your organ out. We're borrowing some of your marrow. And this remarkably advanced scientific techniques that have allowed us to do that have now gotten to the point that the place where I just feel compelled every time I can to remind folks that a little saliva will give us what we need.
I think we need to get dentists. You're a very powerful man. Yeah. If you and I got together and just lobbied the American Dental Association,
just take it.
They're in your mouth.
Yep.
It's spit. I'm spitting it. If dentists did this, we would save millions of lives, especially dentists in other cultures.
It's a great idea. Yes, you're right. And we have whole segments of the population, African-American population, for example, often doesn't donate, and it's just because no one asks them.
Well, and mixed race, too.
Yeah, mixed race.
You know, trying to find people of mixed race to donate, it's really tough. That's why Rod Carew's daughter passed away because she didn't have a match and she was of mixed heritage.
Well, Rod's work is so important for that very reason, because if you don't have people who are like you to donate, then we can't help. So
you got any deep dark questions you got to ask Dr. Oz? This is your one chance to ask Dr. Oz. She has graft versus host disease. How about that?
Well, it's get in line, right? That's one of those problems that happens. That's one of the penalties, right? Because you've got another person's marrow keeping you alive, and you got to become a chimera. You got to marry that marrow.
Yeah. So, deep dark questions.
Yeah, this is your chance to ask Dr. Oz a question. That's why I don't take phone calls.
Relationship problems, bowel habits.
Well, we got enough issues
I don't
here.
have that.
For your work and things moving forward, what's on your mind now medically? What's the next thing that's going to happen in America over the next 5 years that you haven't talked about yet, maybe?
Customization. And I haven't talked about it because it doesn't quite exist
We're not there yet, right?
But I've spent most of my life, like most people in the health space, saying, hey, listen, don't eat so much salt. Well, it turns out that that's not good advice for everybody. That some people actually need a little more salt, and some people it doesn't matter if you have salt, and some people you really can't have any salt at all.
My mother dumped salt on everything she ate. She died last summer.
At the age of 98.
and a month.
So she didn't pay much of a price, right?
Not at all.
And yet we're uniformly against in the medical community salt for understandable reasons, because some people really are hurt by it. But
all of it's evil, not in moderation. Sugar, alcohol, any of that. If too much is not a good thing, right?
That's true. But in the case of salt, for some people, it's just not an issue. So at all. And the other people, like the African Americans whose ancestors came across on slave ships, if they didn't hold on to salt, they died. So the folks who survived those inhumane Middle Passages had oftentimes genetic dispositions to holding on to salt. That's how they survived. So for that population, it's a big deal, the salt. But if your ancestors did not come over like that, and it's just the average person in the human species, it's not quite as important for some people. So why we beat people up about stuff that doesn't matter to them? We should be focusing on what really matters to them. Right now, I have to say to everybody, don't eat so much salt, because I don't know. But when I can customize, when I know that you don't actually have a problem, but you have a bigger problem with, let's just say, addiction or sugar or whatever, let's focus on what you're worried about. And every restaurateur I know says, put salt on it. As we all do, it makes it taste better. If I can make food that you normally wouldn't eat, broccoli, taste better with salt, you're better off with the broccoli and salt than no salt, no broccoli. So that's how customization will change us. It'll also, of course, allow us to do better. High-tech advances will treat cancer better, treat heart disease. Focus on what matters. And right now, it's like shotgun approach. Everyone's worried about everything. Like I said, I got my genetic testing done. I have a very, very low risk of getting prostate cancer. I have a very high risk of getting a macular degeneration condition.
How do you get that test? How do you find that out?
I took one.
I'm scared to death of it, by the way, but I want to get it.
There are a bunch of saliva tests that do it, by the way. I took 23andMe, but there are a bunch that do it. And just take one of them. But now I know I can trade leafy green vegetables, which is good for my eyes to prevent that disease, for a prostate exam. So I can skip my prostates and just eat leafy greens. That's a pretty good trade-off for me. And I think most of us would benefit by treating like adults, which is why people like Tom Brady amaze me, because he's figured out how to hack his body. He's worked out a way of making sure that a 40-year-old body thinks it's 30. And whatever he's done to do that, we got to start copying those kinds of ideas.
The fountain of youth.
Yeah, not for everybody.
Well, especially because I turned 50 this year. We got to fix this.
Fix it.
We got to turn the clock back. Yeah. Dr. Oz, it's a pleasure. We love your work.
Thank
we
you.
follow your work, and it's nice of you to visit with us. We watch you on BAL every day. And
thank you.
Jennifer, good luck to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care of that bone marrow.
I am.
God bless you.
Thanks.
We'll keep saving more lives. Dr. Oz joining us here. We're on Radio Row. It's all brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank and our friends at Royal Farms, where you can get $10 off 50 pieces of chicken this weekend for Super Bowl. Just download the Rofo app and get that thing working for you. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.